Hey guys, DCross here from Team Gopher Face. Today I want to talk about a deck that I've been having pretty good success with on the ladder. We're going to talk about Dragon Druid today. I know what you're thinking, Druid's not a class that normally plays a lot of Dragon, so why would this work so well? It's essentially a variant of Ramp Druid that's using the synergistic effects of the other Dragon cards to bolster the early to mid game. So let's talk about the deck. Alright, so Innervate, Wild Growth, standard Druid cards. This is a ramp deck. After all, you want to be able to get up to this area of your deck as soon as you can. So those are standard. Living Roots is for early game survival. Um, Late game, it's actually kind of nice if you draw it when you have 10 mana, because a Malagos Living Roots turn for 7 damage is pretty strong. um, Wrath and Darnassus Aspirin get you through the early game and again start helping you scale a bit. Uh, it's nice to get the card draw off Wrath, but it's also good for removal against like Mech Warpers and other things that could come out and could potentially lead to worse situations if you let them live. Uh, BGH standard, and at least one is standard in decks today. There's just too many big threats that you have to deal with. I've seen people run two. I'm not a fan. I think that's a little bit overkill, but one is absolutely necessary. Blackwing Technicians are great 3 drops, 3/5 if you're holding a dragon, which most of the time you are. So great card, really good synergy with this deck. Alright, Swipe. Swipe is a standard Druid card. Again, help you survive the early game, mid game, get rid of some of the problem minions that your opponent could play, get rid of some of the smaller ones. Again, if you draw out late game with Malagos, you're doing 9 damage face and 6 damage to everything else, which not a whole lot survives. On the Keeper of the Grove, another card that's absolutely necessary in this deck, but most Druids run them anyways. The 2 damage is great for against small minions and against bigger ones, against Sludge Belchers, against anything that has some sort of nasty effect you don't want to deal with. The Silence is great. Silence, I think, is one of the most powerful mechanics in the game, and running 2 of them in your deck is huge. I think it's very important, and I think it can turn the tide of a game that's going wrong into a pretty clean victory for this deck, especially if you're allowed to scale up. Next up, the Twilight Guardian. As a 4 mana drop, a 2/6 is pretty dang good, but once a 3/6 with Taunt, it's borderline broken. It really shuts down aggro decks and can provide a good base to start throwing out some bigger minions against control. I've seen this get silenced a lot. I've seen this get fireballed a lot just because they don't want to deal with it. But that means all your bigger minions have nothing to worry about, or next to nothing to worry about. Azure Drake is a pretty standard card in Druid, I think. It gives you card draw and spell damage, 2 of the Druid's favorite things. Um, Beyond that, it's a dragon. It's part of the dragon tribe, so it'll buff any other thing that's dependent on dragons, which is really nice. 2 Blackwing Corruptors. It's pretty standard in the dragon deck. The 3 damage removal is very strong against aggro and can be pretty powerful against control, as well as it can start chipping away at some of those larger minions if they're already on the board. ET is another card that's pretty decent in this deck. You can tech in Druid of the Claw or Ancient of Lore if you really want to, but these cards benefit greatly from ET's mana reduction. Plus, on top of that, it's a 5/5 body. It's pretty tough to deal with for any deck. So ET for me has a spot in the deck. For you, it could be something different depending on what you're seeing on the ladder. 2 Ancient of Wars. A 5/10 with Taunt is unreal, and you can have 2 of them. So if your dragon synergies aren't panning out the way you want them, Ancient of War is a great way to turn the game around. Or if you're ahead, it can be a great way to ensure a victory. The first of the big dragons that are in this deck is Chillmaw. Against aggro, it'll completely shut the deck down. You have to bust through a 6/6 with Taunt, and then survive the 3 damage to all the minions on your side of the board. It's a great way to shut down aggro and to start building up a presence against control as well. Cremagus is another one of the cards that could be swapped in and out. Another option would be Alexstrasza. I've seen other people run Deathwing. I'm not a huge fan of that. Because if you do get some of these cards doubled up, if you get a double swipe or a double Blackwing, that can be pretty game changing as far as board control goes. So I'm a fan of Cremagus. Next up is Malagos, who I think is really important to how well this deck does. Turn 10 Malagos and Living Roots is 7 damage for 1 mana on top of the 4/12 body that's on there. It's really hard to remove. I mean, for Druid, the spells are so important because they do decent damage already, and when they're buffed by +5, they're really, really hard to deal with and to come back from. So once again, it's a good card because it can shut down aggro, but also has great benefits against control. So Malagos is really important in this deck. And finally, Ysera. Ysera is essentially a win condition by itself. It's very important to keep this in any high curve Druid deck. The spells and the minions are too powerful to pass up and to tech in a different card. Plus, I mean, it's a dragon. It'll buff everything else that uses it. So it's good because if you get it in your hand early, you're guaranteed basically until turn 9 to have a card that's buffing your Twilight Guardians, your Blackwing Corruptors, and your Blackwing Technicians. So very powerful. Alright, that's going to be it for the Dragon Druid deck. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I could post a mulligan guide if there's enough interest, and then maybe a guide on how to play the deck a little bit. Let me know if that's something you guys would like to see in the comments. The deck list will be available in the description, as will a link to the Team Gopherface Battlefy profile so you can see what we're up to and what tournaments we're competing in. So thanks a lot, you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.